Hello, I'm Oliver Pickard and welcome to beautiful Limousin, France. Today I thought we'd have a bit of a change, a bit of a return to form, as it were. It's been a while since we've just sat down and had a chat, so I thought it might be nice to do that. I used to make videos like this a lot, and there's a full playlist on this channel called Let's Talk About, and they are some of my favourite videos that I've ever made, so if you've never watched a video like this and you enjoy this one, make sure you check those out after. But I've been thinking about nostalgia lately. 2020 seems to be the most nostalgic year that I can remember anyway, and for good reason. We have, social and political and economical upheaval, we have an economic crisis, and things are rather stressful for a lot of people. And so nostalgia is a break from that, isn't it? But the other day, the thing that's actually inspired this video above all of that is the other day I was watching a YouTube video. Now, I don't often get a chance to watch YouTube, you may be surprised to know. A lot of us YouTubers are actually friendly with each other because it's a weird job, and it's really good to talk to people who understand how weird and crazy it can be. So I'm very friendly with quite a few YouTubers and quite a few automotive writers and stuff like that. But we very rarely get a chance to actually sit down and watch each other's videos or read each other's content because we're all so busy trying to make our own. Such is the internet that it's all about how fast you can make stuff, and it's all about making it like I make a video every single week. And if you put that into perspective of a few years ago when people were making magazines and stuff like that, they made one thing a month. And instead, I'm making what is basically a TV show every single week. So it's very rare that I actually get a chance to sit down and enjoy content of people that I really enjoy watching and who I really find inspirational, which is a shame. But I watched a video by a channel called Regular Car Reviews. And Brian, who is Mr. Regular of Regular Car Reviews, took time out from his usual patois of carefully crafted poop jokes to do a rather serious video. He drove a Galaxy 500, which is this big, beautiful American tank of a thing. And he felt, I don't know whether guilty is the right word, but he felt uneasy about driving it and uneasy about loving it as much as he did because he felt weird about having a nostalgia for a time that he didn't live through, because he's not from the 1960s. This was a 63 Galaxy, same year as Jolene, my 2CV. But also because it wasn't really a time that ever existed. What I mean is not 1963, but the nostalgia for the time that he was having nostalgia for never really existed. It was kind of an abridged nostalgia because he was never there. He was, he was nostalgic for the good things of the 1960s, not the bad things of the 1960s, not the political and social upheaval and all of that, which is rather timely now. He was nostalgic for kind of selective nostalgia, as it were. But I don't think he was actually nostalgic at all. I think it's something else entirely. You see, quite a while ago, I made a video called The Next Big Thing in the Classic Car World, where I said that because the young timer classic cars are so modern, they're too close to modern cars. Cars haven't changed that much other than becoming more refined in the last 20 or so years, and so the next big thing in the classic car world shouldn't be something that's more modern, because that's not what classic cars are about. It should be something that's older. And I made a video about how I love pre-war cars. And a lot of people in the comments section who loved pre-war cars all talked about the fact that they struggled with that notion because they think that a lot of people, young people, don't have a nostalgia for pre-war cars. And so why would they love them? But Brian wasn't born in the 60s, and he never lived through the 60s. I never lived through the 60s, and I own and daily drive a car from 1963. So it's not nostalgia. My love for my car isn't nostalgia, and I don't think Brian's love for the Galaxy was nostalgia. Earlier this year, I gave a friend of mine a lift in Jolene. He's a young teenager and had never been in a 2CV before. And we were thrumming along a road in the sunshine with the roof back. And he turns to me in the middle of the drive and says, "Oliver, this is the best car I've ever been in." He said, "My granddad has a few cars and my dad has a nice car, but none of them are this good. Why don't modern cars ride like this, and why aren't they this much fun?" His love of Jolene in that moment wasn't because of nostalgia of wanting one as a kid. He is a kid. It wasn't of not being able to have one as a kid. He just loved the Jolene in that moment as a contemporary thing, not as a classic car, not as an old car, but as a new car, as a new experience to him in 2020. He saw cars as a level playing field, not as old cars here, new cars there, classic cars here, and never the three shall meet. He saw it as, this is direct competition for a modern car, and this is better. And that was very telling to me. And it's one of the things that's really informed this video. I didn't know pre-war cars were as cool as they are growing up because I didn't know about them. Because pre-war cars were the first cars to be worth big money. Everybody squirreled them away, like Smaug in his mountain. You know, Smaug the dragon from The Hobbit sat on his mountain of gold. All the car collectors kind of did that because it was the first time when I was a young lad that cars were worth big money. And because of that, the investors pricked their ears up, got wise to the fact that cars could be worth money, squirreled them all away and sat on them like Smaug in his mountain. And so they didn't drive them. And then the first time that pre-war cars were driven in decades, surprise, surprise, they broke down, because that's what happens when you don't drive cars. But because then people don't drive the cars, young people don't know about them. I never knew about pre-war cycle cars or pre-war Grand Prix cars and the fact that they were road legal. And the fact that you can drive, you can drive a 1920s Grand Prix car on the road and it's completely road legal and it's totally awesome and I completely want one. And I've wanted one ever since I found out. I found out because of an internet thread. But that's not a nostalgic love. I love them because they're awesome today. And that's the key. Just because someone doesn't know about something doesn't mean that they're not nostalgic for something. It doesn't mean that they need to be nostalgic for something to love it, either. I think that what we're feeling isn't nostalgia. I think that classic cars give us something today that modern cars can't. A while ago, I spoke to Twitter, well, my subscribers on Twitter, about what they didn't like about modern cars. What was the missing thing about modern cars that meant that they didn't like them? What was their least favourite thing? And everyone said screens. Like 99% of people said, I hate the screens, I hate the distraction, I hate the fact that we've got screens everywhere. Everybody's got a phone in their pocket. So what if we put those two things together? What if we put the fact that people are sick of screens? I mean, I've not had the notifications turned on my phone for over 5 years because Facebook alone, and because I'm on YouTube, I'm on, of course, as you know, because it's down in the description below, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Reddit, I'm on Tumblr, and there's probably others. I should be on LinkedIn, but I don't use it because I'm social media saturated. And it's notifications constantly. Facebook must send me, 70 to 100 notifications a day, to the point where my phone has been on silent for like 5 years now. Everywhere we go, we are constantly bombarded with news and with politics and with information, be it cat videos, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. It's just constant. And all of the new cars all have these giant infotainment screens. And we have a giant infotainment screen that seems to be getting bigger and bigger every single year in our pocket. And we have smartwatches. But I think people have a growing need for a bit of William Morris. Now, if you don't know who William Morris was the godfather of the arts and crafts movement. During the Industrial Revolution, a time of great social, political upheaval when we've had, factories were invented, the metric system, the steam engine, trains, railways, canal networks. Britain was under a huge time of, like I say, social and economic change. Some of it amazing, mass production, like these amazing things, but there was bad things as well. There was the death of skill, there was the death of artistry, and there was the death of simplicity. And William Morris tried to bring back some of that simplicity. William Morris is the godfather of home decor. And he's most famous for his wallpapers. That rather than being roller printed, which is printed on giant rollers in machines that were pulled through and mass produced giant sheets of wallpaper, they were actually block printed by hand. A human being sat with a block and painted the block, which had the pattern on it. It was all cut out of wood, and then they pressed the block into paper. Because William Morris argued that he couldn't get the level of detail that he wanted with a roller. You couldn't get that human connection with a machine. You needed a human hand. I think a lot of us are sick of being bombarded with smart watches and with iPhones and with everything that's happening in 2020. I don't think it's nostalgia. I think it's saturation. And actually, we just want a watch that's just a watch. When we look at items that we think of as luxurious things, you don't think of an Apple Watch or a smartwatch. You think of a beautiful handmade watch, something that has human touch, something that has artistry. When you think of a beautifully crafted car, you don't think of something with a giant infotainment screen. You think of something like a Morgan. You think of something like a pre-war car, like a Rolls Royce, which ironically has the new Rolls Royce Phantom, has an infotainment screen that buggers off, that can be hidden, that you don't have to look at. You don't need the notifications. I think it's ironic that in 2020, the age of information, one of the nicest things we can have is a beautiful fountain pen. Why in 2020, the time of texting, are people spending so much money on such an arcane writing instrument? And why is there such a big resurgence in old-fashioned film photography? I think we miss the connection. I think we miss doing things the manual way. I think we miss things made by hand. And we are understanding that actually efficiency isn't the same thing as progress. We want our packages delivered to our door by a human being. We want someone to be able to feed their children and put their kids through school by earning a living. and having a job. We want our postal services. We want to write letters by hand and take photographs on film. We want to look at our watch and see the time and not a text message. And I think that's why when you look at Bring a Trailer, which is an online auction website, or choose any other online auction website for that matter, and you'll see Honda Accords that are 30 years old selling for more than they cost new. Cars with no infotainment screens, cars with very little in the way of you and the road. I don't think it's nostalgia. I think it's the want to live in the moment and not be distracted by the future or the past, but be in the now and be in 2020. We have an entire world history at our fingertips. For the first time in human history, you can pick up your phone and you can find the answer to almost anything instantly. This year I've seen more discussion of history than ever before. I've seen historical politics discussions and what did they do wrong and why didn't they learn from their mistakes, and that's a fantastic thing. And I often feel, as someone who makes YouTube videos, I often watch videos by channels like ContraPoints or some more news or something like that, and I feel bad for the people who make the videos. I feel bad for Natalie and I feel bad for Cody, because these are people who make political videos, and when you make political videos you are bombarded. And so these are people who barely use Twitter, who barely use social media. Because when they finish work, when they finish doing what they do, they just want to be in the moment. They just want to be in now. And I think in 2020 we finally all caught up with that. And I think we all finally just want to write a letter and then post it and have it delivered by our postal service. By a human. Not by a drone, not by a robot. We actually want that human connection. We actually want that tactility. We want to have human connection. We're all socially distanced, we're all isolated, and we're all so far from each other. Even our next door neighbours. Next door, 2 years ago, the world felt like a very small place. And now in 2020, the end of the road has never been further away than it is when you're on lockdown. It's a very strange time to be alive. And maybe what we're understanding finally is that efficiency isn't the same thing as quality. Efficiency of life isn't the same thing as quality of life. And maybe what we want is to sit in a car, drive a manual transmission with a clutch and no power steering, feel the road through the steering wheel, and drive without distraction. To look around and enjoy the scenery. The other day I was listening to the Trust in the Machine podcast while I was uploading a video, and Brad Brownell said something that was awesome. He said that he loved electric motorbikes because he was riding the Harley Davidson Livewire, I think it's called, and he could hear the birds as he rode through a forest, and he wasn't distracted by an engine. He could actually just be in the moment and be in the forest. Technology free from distraction. Technology that allows us to be in the moment. And I think what we're going through in 2020 isn't a need I don't think it's nostalgia. And I think many of us are trying to put our finger on it. But it's actually a need to be in the now. And not worry about tomorrow and what tomorrow will bring. But actually, just have a moment, make a brew, relax, and watch a YouTube video. What do you think? Tell me down in the comments below. Is 2020 the year of nostalgia? Or is it the year of now? A lot of people have said that nostalgia comes right before a revolution. Nostalgia comes before great change. It's people looking around and taking stock and saying, are things as good as they could be? Have things been better, and why were things better? And can we learn from the past, and how can we apply that to the future? How can we apply that today to make tomorrow better? Please be awesome to each other, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.